the BBC did this giant interview with Andy Serkis. And what I find interesting is that they literally pile up on him and go, why is the cast white of Gollum? And he basically says, that like it's based on like Norse mythology and European mythology, and they're white people.
Yeah, it's based on Celtic like mythos essentially. That's the whole thing. Tolkien wanted to write. The whole idea is that Tolkien wanted to write a story that he himself wanted to read, but it didn't exist. A mythos that he could just delve deep into.
Yeah,
so he decided to make it himself.
Article. Yeah, you can keep going, Atari. I just want to pull up the article.
Because like the Numino essentially is just a like the story of Atlantis essentially, and like a lot of different other things. Like so, a lot of it is just take place in like the West, like in England essentially. The whole story and everything else, and the story of the trilogy is just based around because he was Hobby was supposed to be a child's story to read for his children, and then later on they wanted like a bit more serious story. So he wrote Lord of the Rings, and then it took between book 1 and 2. It took a more drastic turn because now he really found something he really wanted to do more, or like he knew where he wanted to go with it.
If you look at this article, so if you scroll down some more, there's a little bit more. Yeah, this section. Okay, so it says I got it. It says every major cast member announcement to date has been white. Jamie Dornan, Anna Taylor-Joy, Kate Winslet, Leah Woodall, as well as the returning stars including Elijah Wood and Sir Ian McKellen. The question is why? So then this is where it's like, So Serkis nods his head before answering, and it's clear this is a subject he has given a lot of thought. By the way, can you zoom in a little bit more? Tolkien himself was influenced a lot by Norse mythology. There's a lot of that feeling. The Shire feels very, very, oh my, okay, where'd it go? The Shire feels very, very much like a very, very white, He tails off and pauses before continuing with a greater certainty. They're not very concerned about what goes on beyond the borders of the Shire, but they know they don't want people coming in. Isn't that interesting how he's basically saying they're all white and they don't want people coming in? I just thought that was a little bit funny.
Interesting about how the book 3 ends.
Yeah, and then he continues and says, this particular film is somewhat acknowledging that, but I don't think we will be doing a politically correct just casting for the sake of casting and ticking boxes version of this film. So it's where relevant, basically. And that's all you need to know. Then he goes on and talks about his actual new movie, George Orwell's Animal Farm. I just think it's funny that he basically defends the casting and said, listen, it's based on mythology. We're not going to just hire people just for the sake of check boxes and ticking it off. So I thought that was actually nice to see, but it is funny to see that the BBC made this article, but they never asked the same question based for the Odyssey. I do find.
Well, that's a big statement he made because that's not going to get past PR. So the fact that that's being now kind of a message that might be signaling some kind of turn, maybe. I think a lot of it has to do with the fact that Lord of the Rings' franchise has been damaged by so much bad. We got the Rings of Power. In fact, Stephen Colbert, I believe, is working on this or some other Lord of the Rings film. Andy Serkis just came off of Animal Farm, which did not do well at all. So I'm wondering if they're trying to right the ship a little bit, because that is a statement that a few months ago would have gotten him canceled. Am I crazy?
Yeah. Like a couple years ago, for sure.
Yeah, 2 years ago, like before, like if Elon Musk didn't buy Twitter, essentially, yeah, it would be canceled. He wouldn't. I don't think he would be very cautious of making it, but I feel like everyone is starting to realize now it's okay to say the obvious. Now, finally, we can cast away this charade finally, or like actually say, yeah, no, we are casting it the way we want it to be, because they are fans of the whole thing as well. Like a lot of people who did Lord of the Rings or the OG cast, Elijah Woods, all of them read the books and everything else, and all of them were very interested in it. So I think they want to be true to the source material, and if they get any clapback, I think it's going to be very minimalistic.
Any thoughts, Arch?
I think, I don't know if it's entirely by accident or not, but we are going to see a turning of the tides on this. It's inevitable. That was obviously a pre-planned notion, as he had thought about this to deliver that reasoning and justification, but they're clearly not like happy to do it yet. They're going to test the waters, and we're entering this period now where they can't just throw aside progressivism. So it's going to be a very gradual replacement of this. It's going to be years where they're going to try and please both parties, and eventually they're going to be basically fully on our side, but slowly but surely.
Does anyone have any interest in the actual movie itself?
That's what I was going to ask.
Not until it's out and I know if it's good or not.
Until I know what is it even going to be about.
Well, it's the hunt for Gollum.
Like, I remember watching like a B movie about the hunt for Gollum and I was like, what the frick? And it looked like such a low production movie. I just dropped it like after watching 20 minutes of it when I was a kid. It's got to be interesting, but it's kind of with Arch. Until I see actual footage or like what it actually looks like, I'm gonna hold my breath.
Now, did either one of you, or even Phoenix, did you guys see that Lord of the Rings animated movie that came out? Was it last year?
Last year, no.
The War for Rohirrim?
Yeah, that one.
Yeah. Too girl bossy. Like, they got certain parts of it correct, but at the end of the day, it's literally just girl boss the anime in Lord of the Rings.
Okay.
Oh, it was an anime film? Was it 3D? Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, it was an
the
animated
whole
movie.
thing undermined like one of the characters, like what was it? The lady who said, but I'm no man. They literally undermined her thing because she didn't break the mold. There was already another girl boss who did it before her.
Yep. There's always another girl boss.
I have a very fast question before we get to our last last topic. So Lord of the Rings is, at least in my opinion, it has had a lot of missteps after the initial trilogy, right? I think The Hobbit was fairly divisive. Not everyone loved that. I think they, at least at the very least, thought it was like one film too many. Then you had Rings of Power. Now you're hearing Stephen Colbert is going to be working on these. Some might argue that they're milking the property. I'm not saying that. I'm just curious. As Lord of the Rings fans, what is Lord of the Rings doing so right for you guys that Star Wars didn't do right? Because you had these rabid Star Wars fans, but enough of these similar downfalls has made them reject the property as a whole. What is it about Lord of the Rings that keeps your interest and your hope alive where it's not working for Star Wars?
Well, I think it's actually the exact same position as Star Wars. It's just that Lord of the Rings still has the trilogy, and people still cling to that as the absolute masterwork that it was. And they've rejected everything that came later. I think, if anything, it is just blind hope. In the same way that there's always going to be a degree of blind hope around Star Wars properties as well. Because people keep wanting, it took a very long time before people were just like, no, Star Wars is dead.
Yeah.
Almost 10 years, basically.
Whereas Lord of the Rings is not as far down the pipeline, because it's only had one truly atrocious show, and that's Rings of Power. And the only problem with that is that it's been signed up for like 5 seasons, so it's just going to keep continuing. But most people also look at that and go, it's like, that's obviously not Lord of the Rings.
Right. Okay. Atari, any thoughts?
No, I'm kind of with the same boat. Basically, Lord of the Rings is kind of like the franchise is a lot younger than Star Wars, and they already had like they're kind of like a few decades behind essentially Star Wars. Like, so
in terms of the downfall.
Yeah, if this one's flopped, the one becomes up now, then we can start seeing like Star Wars have this a lot more higher rhetoric, because as Arch mentioned, we only have seen one massive flop, or like few here and there. No, it's tied like a whole plethora of like shows, TV shows, and books that just makes it weird.
Yeah, Star Wars has put out more garbage overall.
Labs, any opinion on this? I know you're not the biggest Lord of the Rings follower, but do you have any insight on that?
I think the guys are kind of hitting on the head for that.
Hit that subscribe button right here and watch another video right here.